This is the Andrew Lake Podcast, and in this episode, we're talking about how to meditate. Today I'd like to cover beginner, intermediate, and advanced forms of meditation. An analogy I like to use is that of learning a musical instrument. When you first start learning an instrument, such as piano, you don't start out with the grand concerto playing in the concert hall with the orchestra from memory. You start out with Mary Had a Little Lamb on your first lesson. And learning how to meditate has a similar sort of scale to it. It's the same degree of complexity. So I hope that analogy helps with understanding how far this journey can go and what's involved in the path of meditation. If this is your first time hearing about meditation, or the first thing that you've clicked on about meditation, then you really need to go further and listen to quite a few different talks and introductory lessons on what meditation is. Find out a lot of different opinions and aspects of it, and there's a whole wealth of information out there on the internet these days. So there's really no excuse to not having a good idea of what you're getting yourself into. Beginner meditation is basically sitting on a cushion with your eyes closed and learning how to concentrate. You'll concentrate on something like your breath or your thoughts, or maybe a candle or a flower or something like that. It's very basic. Another form of beginner meditation would be guided meditations. And if you are going at this cold, this is what I would recommend for you. So this can be in the form of an app, which there are quite a few these days, or there are videos and talks on the internet that will help guide you through the meditation process. So all you've got to do is sit down, close your eyes, and listen to the person speaking to you. It's really that simple. Doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be woo-woo, doesn't have to be wishy-washy, nothing like that. All you've got to do is just sit down and follow the instructions. An important component to meditation is that it must be done every day. It's all about consistency rather than doing a lot at a certain time. One of the biggest hurdles for beginner meditation students is just being motivated and understanding why you should be getting into it. Usually people are into it for surface level things, like they lump it with their yoga or their exercise or their diet or their financial intelligence or their emotional intelligence. And it's just one of those little things in their bag of tricks that they use to improve their life. They just want to sleep a bit better. They want to be less stressed. They want to have more emotional awareness. They want to think with more clarity, and they want to feel good about their lives. Now, this is only the surface level stuff that meditation can do for your life. And it's all great stuff. It's all very important, and we all want to have more of those things. But this is what we put as the beginner level of meditation. If you don't develop a certain amount of concentration, there's really no hope for you in the path of meditation. Concentration is really the first step, and today we have a lot of distractions, and the rate in which our concentration and attention is changed between different platforms and the different stimulations that we have make it that we live in a culture which doesn't help our attention very much. It doesn't help us expand and grow this nurture this aspect of our awareness. So if you're coming at this completely cold, expect there to be a lot of resistance, a lot of hard yards, a lot of what we call monkey mind. I don't like the term monkey mind because the mind is not a monkey and it's not something that needs to be put in its place. So I don't know if I really want to use the word monkey mind, but I can see why some people use that term when you're first starting out with beginner meditation. As for intermediate meditation, this would be what I'd say when you start learning different techniques. And that's where you start to get a bag of tricks where you're not just doing concentration exercises or relaxation exercises, but you're actually distinguishing between the different aspects of awareness. Things like your point of attention, the rate of your thoughts, the feeling in your body, the general experience of your awareness, the field of awareness as distinguished from the content of awareness, and the overall witness. And these sort of terms you start coming up with as you invest in different techniques and you learn about different techniques, which are all pointed at different parts of your consciousness, your overall experience. I always suggest that if you are doing a daily meditation practice, you should always supplement it with research into different techniques and different methods of meditation. So you should be trying out a whole array of different ones, and there's a rich tradition out there and it's quite easy to find out about them. So always listen to talks about what meditation is or what awareness is or what consciousness is, and have that as a supplement that you go along with your meditation practice. So don't think that your meditation is going to be learning a set of actions or methods and then just repeating them over and over. The musician who's learning to play piano will learn a whole bunch of different techniques and devices, and sometimes they'll grow out of them. Sometimes they'll be fundamental and they will stay the whole way through. Sometimes they'll become more complicated, and sometimes they'll be transposed into different forms. So think with more complexity about the process of learning what meditation is. There's a whole bunch of books out there that are quite famous and readily accessible, and they're not hard to find. You can just find out for yourself. So I'm not going to make any suggestions here. At the intermediate phase of meditating or learning to meditate, what you find is there starts to be a blur in the line between meditating and your daily life. So you'll start to have peak experiences, you'll start to have altered states of consciousness, and you'll recognize different flavors of consciousness, and you might put them in scales of high and low or pleasant or unpleasant, and you'll have these labels for these better states of consciousness, and those peak states will become more frequent and they'll start to carry over into your day. So the way that you think, the flavor of your thinking will be better when you're meditating, and then you'll find that that way of thinking will happen when you're not sitting on your cushion in the morning. And then you'll be turning these peak experiences into things that happen just on a regular basis, and they'll become more and more normal until they're completely normal. And then you'll find that your peak experiences become even higher, and then you'll start to see that you're making some sort of change in your awareness as to what's happening and the flavors of awareness that you're having. You'll also notice changes in how you perceive and feel your body, the feelings that you have, the actions that you do, and things like your diet will start to be affected because you'll be eating foods and you'll be noticing how they affect your body more. not just when you taste them, but when they go down, when they digest, when they're absorbed, when they're processed, when they're excreted. This whole process is something that you can become more aware of, and as you're becoming more advanced in your meditation practice, you'll become more aware of this process, and then you'll be noticing that some foods have different effects from others. And this goes the same for your actions, it goes the same for your words that you speak, it goes the same for the people that you interact with, it goes the same for the different environments that you're in. All these sort of situations become more aware to you, and you become able to distinguish the difference between the flavors of consciousness and awareness that you have as you meditate and become more advanced in your meditation practice. Now, I think at this point I do need to offer quite a large disclaimer, and that is to say that by saying anything about meditation, I'm actually breaking all the rules. And let me explain, and this is something you need to be aware of with all of the information that you take in when you're finding out about meditation. The disclaimer is that if I feed you a description of an experience, or I feed you a set of terms or words, I'm actually setting you up to fail, because then you'll be trying to get to that experience. You'll be getting confused about whether that is an experience that you've had or not, or whether this is something you've done, or if you're doing it right, and you'll just get yourself tied up in a ball of knots if you try to take what I'm saying too seriously and you follow what I'm saying too seriously. This is why guided meditation has its limits. It's both good because it can take you certain places, but it doesn't get you opening up to allow for new things to happen, for new experiences and new awarenesses to happen. So that's why the intermediate phase is more about letting go of things and dropping your resistance to feelings and just noticing feelings and experiences. And that way, new things can change, new things can happen. The majority of traditional meditation techniques avoid trying to give you a description of how you should feel or how you should be or what should happen to you if you're doing it correctly. Strong traditional meditation techniques simply teach the method, and the method is the same the whole way through, from beginner to intermediate to advanced. So you can literally follow the instructions and allow the experiences to change as you keep following the instructions. So, with that disclaimer in mind, I'm going to touch on advanced meditation. If when we start meditation, we want to improve our lives, and when we're intermediate with our meditation, we're taking our best experiences and making them normal, advanced meditation is what some might call breaking through. It would be the complete rapture, ecstasy, bursting of joy and bliss, a readily available shimmering of complete and utter joy. This is where yogis and mystics and sages start to speak in these sort of poetic terms. And they sound like they're off to the races. They sound like they're off with the roses, with their head in the clouds. And they are. And this is the only sort of language they can use to describe these sort of feelings. The sort of things that they have happening to them seem too far out to even put into words. There are a lot of steps and processes and chapters along this journey. And you'll find out more than you can ever imagine is possible if you take it as far as it can. The very flavor of meditation changes the more advanced you become. It no longer is an activity that you do in order to gain something. It becomes more like an activity of realization, and you simply be rather than do. And this flip between being and doing is an important one, and it changes the very whole approach that you take. You no longer have to force yourself to do it. You no longer have to put yourself through into a discipline and work at it. It's more of a happening. And this is why a lot of people who have broken through say, this didn't happen as something that I did. It's more that it's something that happened to me. You can listen to the accounts of many sages and saints and mystics over the centuries, and they can give you outrageously crazy stories of what it's like to break through. This is known as the awakening process or the awakening journey, and there's a whole wealth of information out there about what it's like to reach these higher peaks. There are also scientific studies on these, and there's plenty of talks that are scientific these days. So if you're less inclined to the mystical realms, there's also a scientific aspect. There's a talk that Sam Harris gives on his podcast where they do brain scans on monks that have 40 plus years of meditation experience, and the brainwave patterns are remarkably similar to those who are tripping on LSD. So try to realize the significance of this. These people are tripping balls on LSD 24/7. This is one of the hardest psychoactive drugs on the face of the planet. And these guys are just basking in it. There are also reports of consciousness during deep sleep. And so the brainwave patterns of delta, alpha, beta, gamma can be understood from a subjective point of view. They can be experienced from a subjective point of view. So there is a science behind meditation as well as a story or an interpretation. For me personally, meditation has been the one nail in the coffin that changed everything. It's really been the core device which everything else has stemmed off. And the only thing that I would put as an equal to meditation practice as a method of positive transformation would be that of knowledge. And the two together really go hand in hand. When Ken Wilber explains his integral theory in a accessible manner, which he sometimes likes to do, believe it or not, he calls the knowledge side of things growing up. So this would be learning about theories, concepts, psychologies, philosophies, words, stories, mythology. Knowledge is growing up. And as for the meditation side of things, he would call this waking up. So that would be the experience, expanding perception, expanding awareness, expanding thoughts, expanding understanding of your general feeling of reality. So hopefully these distinctions and descriptions have given you a bit of an idea about what's possible, and you can go and do a little bit more research in your own time and make sure you practice every day. Doesn't have to be complicated. You really just have to sit on a cushion for 20 minutes. It's really not that hard. There's nothing spooky about it. You just do it every day. Learn to build a habit, build a routine out of it, and trust the process. So really try to imagine how far this can take you. That's about all I have to say for today. My name is Andrew, and we'll be back soon with more. Have a wonderful day and happy cushion sitting.